Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down how the conflict between Iran, America, and Israel is sending some serious economic shockwaves all the way to India, and we'll be looking at it through the lens of analysis by Dr. K.Rahual.
So, you might be wondering, how can something happening so far away actually make it cost more to fill up your tank or take the bus? Well, it's a fantastic question, and the connection is way more direct than you probably think. It all starts in one very narrow, very important stretch of water.
To really get the full picture, we have to start right at the epicenter, a region that's not only at the heart of this conflict, but is also pretty much the heart of global energy.
And this is it, the Strait of Hormuz. Now don't let the map fool you. This isn't just some waterway. It is a vital, non-negotiable artery for the entire global economy. Any kind of blockage here, even a small one, is felt almost instantly, everywhere.
Just how vital are we talking? Get this, about 20%, that's a full 1/5 of all the oil the world consumes, has to pass through this single choke point every single day. So you can imagine when that flow gets threatened, the whole system just seizes up.
Okay, so let's follow that ripple. We're going to trace how it travels and transforms into these powerful economic shockwaves that hit India particularly hard. And there's a reason India is so exposed to this kind of thing. And wow, this chart right here pretty much shows you the core of the problem. India imports nearly 90% of its crude oil. Think about that. That massive dependence means that any little tremor in the global supply chain can feel like a full-blown earthquake for the Indian economy. So when those critical supply routes are under threat, you get exactly what you're seeing in this chart, a sudden sharp spike in the price of oil. It's a textbook case of what happens to supply and demand when you throw a whole lot of geopolitical stress into the mix. And this is where that chain reaction really kicks in. See, higher prices at the pump, they don't just stay there. They bleed out into the entire economy. It costs more to transport goods, it costs more to manufacture products, and even costs more to grow food. This is the straight line from that distant conflict right to your family's budget.
But the impact isn't just on physical things. All this global uncertainty, it really spooks investors. They start pulling their money out of what they now see as riskier markets, like India, and they run for so-called safe assets, like gold. This is what's called capital flight, and it has a nasty side effect. It weakens the local currency, which then makes everything India needs to import even more expensive.
So we've got oil, we've got finance, but what about just stuff? You know, the actual goods moving around the planet. Well, this conflict jams up the gears of global trade, making it a whole lot harder to get things from A to B.
It just flat out becomes more expensive and takes longer to move cargo. Shipping companies suddenly face way higher insurance costs, or they have to completely reroute their ships around the danger zone, adding tons of time and money to the journey. And that hits both what India buys and what it sells.
And this has a direct impact on some of India's biggest export industries. We're talking about things like basmati rice, pharmaceuticals, textiles, all of which rely on the Middle East not just as a place to sell to, but as a critical highway to get their products to markets in Europe and beyond.
And look, this isn't just some abstract theory. Dr. K.Rahual's analysis points to very real, concrete examples. You have massive shipments of goods, hundreds of thousands of tons of rice, for example, just stuck, facing these huge, costly delays. And that hurts exporters and the entire national economy.
You know, this whole crisis isn't just an economic problem. It forces India into this unbelievably tricky diplomatic balancing act. Why? Because the nation has really strong, really important ties with all the major players in this conflict. Which brings us to a huge question. How in the world does India manage these competing relationships all at the same time? It's like walking a tightrope, a super high-stakes foreign policy challenge where every single move is being watched. And this table just lays out the dilemma perfectly. On one side, you have the US and Israel, who are absolutely key partners for defense and technology. But on the other side, you got Iran, which is crucial for India's energy needs and for big regional projects like the Chabahar port. India has to somehow protect all these vital and sometimes conflicting interests at once. And we absolutely cannot forget the human element here. The stability of the entire Gulf region is critical because the safety and the jobs of nearly 10 million Indian workers are on the line. The money they send home, those remittances, is a huge source of income for countless families and for the country as a whole. So, with all these vulnerabilities now out in the open, what's the long-term game plan for India? How can it start to build a better shield against these kinds of external shocks? Well, the analysis points to a strategy with a few key parts.
Ultimately, the whole strategy can be boiled down to one single, powerful word: resilience. And that means a few big things. First, diversifying energy, investing in renewables, boosting domestic production to rely less on foreign oil. Second, building new trade routes to bypass these dangerous choke points. And third, continuing to walk that diplomatic tightrope carefully to help calm tensions and protect its own interests.
You know, this whole situation is just such a powerful reminder of how deeply connected our world is. A geopolitical ripple that starts in one small part of the world can easily become a tidal wave on the other side of the planet. And that makes building national resilience not just a good idea, it's an absolute necessity for survival.